saw your text on the last chat yesterday, right before we got disconnected. So.
Okay, we'll get started here. Welcome everybody to the FANHS Now Community Dialogue Day 2. And as we usually, traditionally, we always start our sessions with a moment of silence. So let's bow our heads and think of those who are not with us, especially those that left the Philippines to come to America, to put food in our stomachs, a roof over our heads, and to give us opportunities that in most cases were denied to them. Thank you. And at this moment, I'd like to pass it on to Mr. Alexander Sena, FANHS Hampton Roads Emeritus. He's going to take the journey, take the reins, and here we go with our chapter showcase.
Yeah, so welcome back, everybody, for those of you that were here yesterday, and welcome to those who are coming in for the first time today. As Doc mentioned, my name is Alex Sena. I'm currently now residing in LA, so I'm now an active member of FANHS LA, and the emeritus of Hampton Roads, I guess as Doc calls it. But yeah, so we're gonna continue on with the same style of programs. We're gonna adjust a little bit because we're trying out new Zoom functions as we kind of get more accustomed to this style of presentations and meetings. So yesterday I told people, you know, like, again, we wanna remind everybody to make sure to mute your microphone so we don't have as much disturbance if you're not speaking. You don't have to this time close your video. I'm going to be pinning the speakers so that they're the ones up front. So if you want to keep your video on, running, you're perfectly fine to do so. We have a mechanism now to be able to make sure that whoever is sharing will be at the forefront of the conversation. But you are more than welcome to turn off your video should you choose. I'm just saying it's not mandatory this time for this presentation. So we have a great lineup. Various chapters have offered to kind of share highlights and the things that are going on in their chapters and in their communities as a way of informing the larger FANHS community of what's going on, and hopefully it'll help increase our ability to feel connected and knowing what's going on in each chapter. So we also ask that between presentations that you hold all your questions if there are any. You can post them to the chat, and then hopefully what we will try to make sure we take account for those if we have those, but we can also save the questions for the end. We have a little bit of time if people have those. So just those couple of reminders. The last thing is really to make sure that if you are a presenter, you will have the ability to share presentations. I will also call on you. And so I have your slides if you've given them to me, and I'll run those in the background. But what I'll do as I'm introducing each person is I'll call whoever's up, and they should know the order. And then I'll also say who's coming up next so that you know ahead of time that you are about to be the one to present so that you can prepare yourself. All right, without further ado, I'm going to pin and highlight Ate Barbara, who's gonna kind of do general welcome and then also get us rolling with her presentation on FANHS Seattle. So Ate Barbara, here you go.
Good evening, everybody. Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat and magandang umaga, Joni, and welcome to FANHS Now Community Dialogue. This is Thursday, July 30th, 2020, day 2. My name is Barbara Bragano, and I'll be one of 3 hosts this evening, along with Alex Sena and Luna Jamero. We're very excited that you could join us this evening and hope you will enjoy our show tonight. This evening, we'll be hearing from 8 of the 38 wonderful FANHS chapters throughout the United States. They'll be sharing their stories, their experience, and about their respective Filipino-American communities. As FANHS Now continues to grow and develop, we hope and encourage other chapters to join in this collaborative effort to exchange ideas and share information in what we are doing to promote Filipino-American history. Before I start our showcase, I wanted to give a big shout out to yesterday's presenters who gave very heartfelt and memorable tributes to our dearly departed FANHS members honored last night who are forever memorialized in the FANHS Legacy Month. And as my brother would say, the month of October is Filipino American History Month because that is when all the leaves turn brown. And a big shout out, congratulations to Patricia Brown from FANHS Hawaii, who was honored last night and given October 30th as her day in the FANHS Legacy Month. Thank you very much. And so now I will turn this back to Alex.
All right, thank you so much. And so now we're gonna begin. So Barbara, are you ready for?
Oh, Alex, excuse
yes.
me, Alex, can I interrupt a little bit? I'm supposed to be the timekeeper.
Okay.
So I just want to remind everybody that I don't know if I could do the chat and keep track at the same time, and people may not be looking at chat. So I have this little, can you guys hear this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this up about a minute before your time is up. I hope it's not too disruptive, but at least you can visually see it, and I'll try to unmute the rest of the time. But you'll hear this, the speakers will hear this a minute when they have a minute left, okay? Is that all right?
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Ate Luna. All right. So yeah, just make sure that if you hear that in the background, that's just a little symbol of hopefully we can wrap up some final thoughts so we can keep our transitions running smooth. All right. So just on to the presentations now, right? And so Ate Barbara, we're going to begin with you, and then we have FANHS Metro New York up next. So FANHS Seattle.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Luna. Once again, my name is Barbara Bergano. I am currently the Vice President of FANHS Greater Seattle. The chapter was chartered on June 27th, 1990, and is one of the oldest chapters in the United States. As with any organization, there is membership turnover, and with that, the Seattle chapter was no exception. In May of 2013, the FANHS chapter was revived and new officers were selected. This is in Seattle. With that, the chapter was renamed Greater Seattle FANHS to include outlying areas in the city of Seattle. Our chapter has an executive team that includes the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and a chapter administrator. We plan on holding elections for new officers in August, and currently we have 20 active paid members. I think one of the unique things about our chapter is that we are housed with the National FANHS Office. With that, we have access to Pinoy archives for meetings, the office equipment, supplies, storage, and of course, Auntie Dorothy, who regularly attends our chapter meetings. Our meetings are held in the basement of the National Office, which is right next door to Immaculate Conception Church, one of the oldest Catholic churches in Seattle, and where a good number of Filipinos attend Mass. Our chapter meets once a month, and we have breakfast served. We meet every Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 o'clock noon. A few noteworthy chapter accomplishments include a very successful fundraiser in 2014 after new officers were elected. The $10,000 raised lasted for us for a good number of years, where we purchased digital cameras, laptops, and scanners to help us with our oral histories. And of course, 20% of our proceeds went to national. Keeping in line with the FANHS mission and celebrating Labor History Month in May, we hosted the screening of the documentary Delano Manong's Forgotten Heroes of the United Farm Workers Movement. One of our chapter members, Devin Cabanilla, is related to Marissa Roy, and she agreed to come to Seattle for our event. As you know, Marissa is the writer, director, and narrator for Delano Manong's. We had a panel discussion which included Marissa, Ray Pasqua, president of FANHS Yakima, and a personal friend of Larry Italong, and Richard Gertiza, who is the regional director for the N. Boatman's Union, Alaska Cannery Workers Association. This was in 2015. In 2016, we collaborated with the Filipino Student Association at the University of Washington and hosted a one-day conference, Lessons from Our Manongs, the struggle for Filipino-American civil rights yesterday and today. It took place at the University of Washington Ethnic Cultural Center, and we covered the history of some of our local Filipino-American civil rights activists and their role in the Filipino-American civil rights movement in Seattle in the 1970s. The students were amazed at the personal stories that were presented at this event, and even relevant today with the Black Lives Movement. A couple of workshops we hosted last year was a writing workshop conducted by Grace Talusan, who is the winner of the Restless Book Prize for Immigrant Writing and the author of the book, The Body Papers. We had about 25 people attend in this workshop in the Pinoy Archives. So if you don't think you know how to write, Grace will teach you how to do that in a 2-hour session. And we also had a workshop on family history with DNA and genealogy. This research was presented by our own Devin Cabanilla. This is where Devin shows you how to track down your genealogy using ancestry and DNA testing. In addition, he found out a way to explore family last names and how they were used as zip codes during the Spanish occupation of the Philippines. Another unique tidbit about our chapter is we partner with the National Office on Events and conducting oral history projects. The current ongoing project is with the Filipino-American Vietnam War veterans. The first phase was a production of a 90-minute video capturing their memoirs of being in the Vietnam War. This was shown at the New York FANHS National Conference in 2016. Currently, the second one is in production now, and it's called Seattle Brotherhood and the Vietnam War, which highlights the friendships and the veterans before and after the war, childhood to adulthood. Another project the chapter is working on is a Filipino-American cookbook. This is my daughter's project, Brianna Bergano-Kinney, which is complete and ready for printing. The book is called One Drop of Bagong, something that Uncle Fred always said about being a Filipino. She's a nutritionist, a recent graduate from Bastyr University in Seattle, and is currently back in school studying to be a dental hygienist. The book is a whole foods book targeting at making Filipino dishes more healthy. In fact, an interesting fact, 35% of the COVID cases that were from the Filipino population in Los Angeles County. This is because Filipinos suffer from hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, specifically due to their diet. This book would be a good book for those who have those medical conditions. I think one of the most important projects that we have to start, and we started it just last week, is the 2022 FANHS National Conference. It will be a challenge because we just don't know how we're going to fare in this pandemic environment. So that's it. Thank you now, and turn it back to you, Alex, or is Dolly up next?
All right, thank you so much, Barbara. Yeah, next up, we're gonna have FANHS Metro New York to share a presence. I know Joey Tobacco has a presentation, and then I think Dolly is gonna start us off with some words.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dolly Fernandez, aka Dolores Alec. I'm the current treasurer of Metro New York. Joey and I are happy to join this 3-day event, and thank you, Hampton Roads, and wish to express my very deep disappointment for the cancellation of our Hawaii conference, but we make do. We're Filipinos. All right, here's our short and sweet chapter presentation on how we address the Philippine American history and the projects and events we conducted to fulfill the mission of FANHS. Okay, Joey, show your slides. Wherever you are, Joey. Joey. There you go. Okay, we are the 6th chapter of FANHS, and we were organized by Ray Alejandro in 1990, and we were chartered in 1991. As Ray's health declined, so did the chapter and its membership. At the St. Louis conference, Uncle Fred asked Joey Tobacco to find out what was happening with the New York chapter and see what he could do to breathe some life back into the chapter. And it took nearly 5 years to get 10 people together to form a new board of directors, but Joey did it, he accomplished it, and finally in May 2010, we requested national for the Metro New York to be reinstated. Our current officers are Isabel Villacampa, she's president, M. Marbella, the vice president, Noel Aguilbat, the secretary, and myself, the treasurer. We have 21 active members, active paid members. What's unique about our chapter? We're one of the largest Phil-Am populations on the East Coast. Our members are doctors, educators, seniors, students, lifetime and 10-year members, lifetime members. Our age range of members are from 20s to 70s, and we all work easily despite the age gaps. We wrote 2 books. We published 2 books. One is 1998, Pinoy York, which is a term coined by Ronaldo Alejandro. And in 2015, we wrote Filipinos in New York City, which was published by Arcadia. We hosted 2 biennial conferences, one in 1996 and in 2016, the Pinoy State of New York, the 16th biennial conference. We have a social media that is really strong. We do monthly newsletters. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We even started a new YouTube channel. We have LinkedIn. Registrations for most of our events are easily accomplished through Eventbrite. We've hosted Journey for Justice, the book tour, and a tribute to Don Mabalan. Our FAM awards and recognitions, we get proclamations from the governor and the mayors of New York City. We've had 2 Marianda meetups, and this month's, which was just on Sunday, was particularly special because it was a direct relevance to the social and political climate right now, and it focused conversations on allyship, race, and solidarity. We collaborate with a lot of the local organizations. We support the Little Manila Honorary Street Co-Naming Initiative. The goal is to receive New York City Council support for an honorary street sign entitled Little Manila, which is on the intersection of Roosevelt Avenue and 69th Street in Woodside, Queens. We have this is the new normal, all this virtual meetings, and our presence will just remain as it is until further notice. Everything will be like this, Zooming. And I look forward to seeing everybody on Saturday at our general membership meeting. And that's it. And I did it in time. Yes? Yes, I did it. Okay, Joey rehearsed me. Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much from FANHS Metro New York. So next up, we have, let me see here on my list. We have Santa Clara with FANHS Santa Clara with Anne Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I'm just waiting for them to stop sharing so I can share my screen.
Joey, get off.
I'm a little nervous, everyone. Okay. All right, thank you. Here we go. All right, so, oops, sorry. All right. All right, here we go. So my name is Anne Regino, and I am presenting on behalf of FANHS Santa Clara Valley. For those of you that don't know where Santa Clara Valley is, we are in Northern California, the heart of Silicon Valley. We're in the Bay Area. And here's a little bit about our chapter. So FANHS Santa Clara Valley was founded in August 21, 1991. We revived the chapter and new leadership came in 2015. We currently have 7 core members and 8 general members. We have a unique governance structure, and we don't follow the traditional leadership roles. That means we have no president, we have no vice president, no secretary, no treasurer, but we have committees, and each committee has a committee head. We have a finance, events, and communications, and membership committees. For our annual events and traditions, we promised to have an event for our community for every FAM, October. In 2018, we held an open mic at a local mall here in San Jose. And in 2019, we helped create FANHS-HR, which is a coalition of South Bay organizations, Phil-Am organizations, to help organize Fam Jam. And Fam Jam is inspired by a Filipino-American music festival in the early 90s in San Jose. And we were able to revive that last year. And about 1,000 people came to our first FAM Jam, hoping that this year it will be a virtual event so everyone can come. Also for FAM 2019, we held a social media virtual campaign highlighting Filipino American visionaries in Santa Clara Valley. During the holidays, we invite the local community for a parole making workshop. And it's always a hit and popular for Filipino American families here, especially the children. Every year, we're invited to San Jose State University's Filipino American Club Akbayan for their annual RAP conference, which is an all-day event for high school and college students. On the left side, we did an oral history workshop, which was taught to us by Auntie Dorothy Cordova. And on the right side, we did an iHotel workshop for those students, or what we call International Hotel. In 2018, we helped organize the first ever Filipino Heritage Night for our Major League Soccer team, the San Jose Earthquakes. And current and ongoing projects, currently this past June for the Black Lives Matter movement, our chapter organized a Filipinx march and protest in downtown San Jose. We were also invited to PAC Bayanihan's response to educate Filipino American college students nationwide about the history of Filipinx and Black solidarity. Okay, in May 2019, we had our very first FANHS Seattle exposure trip. This was an idea that was sparked by our chapter to bring college students and young professionals from all over the nation to Seattle and immerse ourselves to the Filipino American culture there. The organizing committee was a collaboration of different FANHS chapters, like Dennis Villa Perez, who's from FANHS Greater Seattle chapter, Anthony Guevara from FANHS Houston, Texas, and Joanne Baston from our FANHS San Francisco chapter. It was a 4-day exposure trip. It was a 4-day exposure trip where we visited Filipino American historical landmarks. Emily Lawson took us on the Fred Cordova Seattle tour. We had a FANHS Racer Mixer where we raised funds for FANHS National. We also visited the FANHS National Office and Archives. Auntie Dorothy gave us an oral history workshop, and Mary Chris Catlabian taught us how to archive files. We were actually her pilot group to start digitizing the archives. And here's a little video for all of you. It's only 1 minute. Save the date though, October 3rd at 2 p.m. If our streets could talk, Kwentuhan ng Kalsada, we'll be talking more about our trip. Okay, I'll play this for us.
Territory where Carlos Bulosan once lived to tell a story of the rain, sweat, glory of Mike Jackson men who fight the destination, we the destined to end. Left a writing on the wall in the halls of the Nippon Khan of his transformed majority Decepticons. But my conception of the Walkman's rotation is you live up in the upper left, you gotta have patience, cause ain't no urban radio stations about to play us unless you sign the dotted to make your songs brainless. While you waiting for the mention in the pages of the stranger, you can find me in the basement, maybe meters for later. And yes, we all need a little paper to strive, but the monsters in your town will put a lip in your stride. I exhibit all the time like I'm pepping your ride, and we've been living in conditions of time. Two swallows rock.
Okay. Oh, sorry. All right, almost done here. Our upcoming projects is Pinoy Town, which is about a vanished Filipino community in San Jose during the early 1920s to 1960s. FANHS Santa Clara Valley and Robert Ragsack, who is a board member of the FANHS Museum and a manong who lived through that era, is working together with us to retell and revive the stories of the Filipino American experience. Our first historical walking tour was last year in March, and we plan to continue doing these tours for the community. FAM will be our kickoff month, and in September, we'll begin our talk series with Robert Ragsack talking about Pinoy Town. And everyone here is invited. We'll keep you posted for these events. Here's a picture of our group. And one last thing, a couple of weeks ago, we invited FANHS San Francisco chapter for a mixer and a meet and greet. And together we learned about the Filipino farm workers at a local ranch in San Jose called Cottle Ranch. Carolyn Shimandel, a parks program coordinator for interpretation for Santa Clara County Parks, she reached out to us and presented about what they know about the Filipino farm workers in the early 1930s. She is asking FANHS Santa Clara Valley to help research the stories of the farm workers to share with the public about the history of the park. So we do have a lot of projects coming up. And that's about it. Maraming salamat to everyone. Unfortunately, I cannot be here for the Q&A segment. So if you guys want to leave us an email, if you have any questions about stuff that we're doing, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our website is currently under construction, but yeah, you guys can contact us through there too. Okay, thank you very much for inviting us, and I'm gonna hand it over to Alex. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ann. That was a great presentation. Everyone's presentations, man, everyone's so inspiring. Next up, we have FANHS Stockton with Linda.
Hi, this is Linda. I don't feel fancy like everybody because I don't have a PowerPoint slide or a video, so I'm just going to talk to this chapter. My name is Linda Claramo, and I am the president of the Stockton chapter. Just some brief background. Before the chapter was established in Stockton, there was a group known as the Filipino American History Institute that was collecting Filipino American history in Stockton. And as you know, Stockton was the main hub for Filipinos in the early 1900s, and by the 1930s, Stockton had the largest Filipino population outside of the Philippines. So there is a lot of history here. And a lot of you are familiar with the Don's book. During a visit by Fred and Dorothy, it was suggested that Stockton become a member of FANHS, and then the Stockton chapter was later chartered by National FANHS in November 1992. So who are the current officers? Our officers come from diverse backgrounds and experiences. The vice president is Gloria Namora, who is an educator and also a past vice mayor of Stockton, California. The acting secretary is Rena Culadorino. She served as a business officer for the Office of the President for the University of Pacific here in Stockton. She also has background as a healthcare educator. Tom Sanchez, some of you might know him. He was a past president, but he is now the treasurer, and he served as director of business development or waste management. He's continuing to do consulting work now. I am the president right now, and my background is public affairs. I worked in the Central Valley, San Francisco, went to the East Coast for Baltimore, DC for the federal government and public affairs with national API organizations. So the chapter, we have about 135 active members. That means active paid up members and voting members. What is unique about our chapter? Well, Stockton has been the most, what is unique about our community? Stockton is probably was named the most racially the diverse city in the US. And here in Stockton, the Filipinos make up the largest number for the Asian population. Our area of focus as a chapter is San Joaquin County, which includes Lathrop, Tracy, Lodi, Lathrop, which do have large Filipino communities also. So one of the unique and great thing about our chapter is that our chapter is the only chapter to be fortunate to be in close proximity to the National Museum. So many of the chapter members are also museum staff members. And so we assist with fundraising activities. We also volunteer to staff the museum, and in the last year we volunteered 3,000 volunteer hours. In the last year, we also, as a chapter, we donated $1,200 to the museum to make sure that, to support their operations and to ensure that they continue to grow and sustain. So what are our chapter accomplishments? Okay, just to name a few, last year we also donated $1,000 to a local school, St. Luke's, that has a large Filipino American student population. So we donated money so they could purchase Filipino American history books. One of our major projects is our newsletter. Right now, our newsletter has grown from 8 pages to like 20 pages. I think the next one's been 30, but it's very popular here in Stockton. We use it to, we use the newsletter to collect oral histories and histories from local families and organizations. We had to increase our staff from 3 to 7 because it does take long. It's like a regular newsletter, but we have a graphic designer who works with us and good writers, so that has helped. Every year, the chapter sponsors a annual community recognition award event where we recognize individuals and organizations who have made a positive impact to the Filipino community. This year, due to COVID, we won't be doing a gathering, but we will be recognizing through media. We already have the mayor's office is going to help us with this event, help us with the recognition, and also the board of supervisors and hopefully the local TV station. Another accomplishment is we just finished putting the finishing touches on our scholarship program. This will be the first ever one that we had for the chapter. We're going to be awarding $500 scholarships to high school students, and we'll be launching this in late September or October. So our future plans, well, one of our priorities is to increase our membership in the young adults and student category. Right now, I would say that within our 135 active members, probably the largest number is over 50. So we want to increase our membership for the students to students and young adults under 35. So we've named a young adult and student advisor who's going to help us with recruitment and engagement activities. And also, we also partner with local Asian American and Pacific Islander organizations. For example, we are a member of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce. We're also looking at ways to collaborate with Little Manila. Little Manila is more active in the social justice social justice issues, and I just talked to them like last week about looking at ways that we can collaborate on the voter registration and get out the vote. And I think we try to keep our members engaged because, right now we can't meet. So we do have some fun projects where we have a map that we created that will track our members' ancestors' migration to the United States. You'll see that in our next newsletter. We're also collecting photos of our members, asking them, what are you doing while you're shelter in place? We already got a whole bunch we have people trap shooting and people, doing all kinds of gardens and whatever. So it's going to be really interesting. We're going to add that to our newsletter. And I think the most important thing for us is right now, like I said, is engagement, because some of our people don't Zoom because a lot of them are seniors and they won't Zoom. So we have to think of ways to keep them engaged. And so I'm working on that right now. We do personal phone calls. I've been doing that whenever I have some time, I pick up the phone and call some of our members just to check on them. What can we do? What would you like to see? And so, in fact, I did that this morning. So, and that's practically it. I know Terry is one of my advisors, and she's on here, so she has something to add. She's an active member of the chapter also. So,
okay, time's up.
Okay, that's it. I'm done.
All right, thank you, Dr. Linda from Stockton. Great, that's a lot of great stuff that's going on there. Our next presenter is going to be the group from FANHS LA. So Ron and the crew is up. Oh, I'm gonna unmute.
Got it.
Cool.
Okay, let me go back in real quick. I wasn't involved in our chapter. Helen Brown and a lot of other FANHS LA people had started it. I actually started in San Diego, but since I got involved, FANHS LA was involved in 2002 with the FANHS Los Angeles chapter at Marymount University. In 2008, there was a reorganization plan, but it wasn't until 2013 that I started bringing young people into our chapter. So this is our board of our officers. Isabel is on the left. Jana, January are our co-treasurers. Christine, David is the secretary, and their sisters, Isabel and Christine. So they're involved. The majority of our members are high school students. So when we get kids involved, we focus on next generation activities from fundraising to Filipino American History Month events, collaboration in the community. We recruit Filipino American students to be involved. We do tours, road trips. We do a lot of mentoring, supporting, guiding, teaching, because a lot of these students started with me in middle school, and now many of them are in high school, and we raised a lot of money just to bring them to national conferences. And so we're going to show you some of the photos that we had together. In 2014, this was in San Diego, and we teamed up with the FANHS Alaska chapter and with some Hawaii folks that came with us. In 2014, we had a local event called Philam Arts, and we brought 3 high school kids together, about 30 kids together, along with FANHS Alaska. Quint Bakal from Alaska brought some of his students down, and we all hung out together. 2015, we did this thing called What's Your Top 5 Filipino Things in Carson. And it started as like in the library. We brought multiple high school kids from Anaheim, from Carson, from Torrance in the South Bay of LA. And we did a walking tour. We brought them into this back room. They didn't know there was a secret room in the Carson Library, but we brought them in and we highlighted all these places in Carson that had all these Filipino businesses. So we did a walking tour for them, and LSL Art Silva was also part of our presentation. He did a presentation for the kids. So we went to bring work together again with the Alaska chapter. Quint Bacall brought a lot of his students, and we got to see the Phantom of the Opera during the New York conference when we were in New York City. Took our plane ride. This was the room where we had high school kids and college kids from Alaska, from Hawaii, and from LA. We did walking tours. We always come to the conference 3-4 days before, so we can spend some time to get to know everything. And then, we just made sure that the kids had fun. Hold on. And in 2017, we were in Seattle for a youth convergence. And we brought kids there from LA, Alaska, and Hawaii. And we were there for a whole 7 days. We did tours. We went to the mall. Look, even Brigano Allen is in there. I mean, we hung out. Auntie Dorothy did a workshop for the kids. And we, got together to learn more about doing oral history presentation. And we also participated in Pagdiriwang or Pisa Sanayon in Seattle. And the kids got to sell some of the gear as part of the fundraising. These are just some of the flyers that we put together in the community. And then in 2018, we were in Chicago for the FANHS conference. Again, we brought Alaska, Hawaii, and LA students together. And I'm going to transition to Isabel because Isabel is going to talk about what we've done lately.
Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel David. I am the Vice President of the FANHS LA chapter. Just last year in 2019, we attended the Long Beach Filipino Festival. A few of our high school students attended to help fundraise for the FANHS Hawaii Conference. And this was a great opportunity for them to meet other organizations and network with them and just be exposed to the community. And then earlier this year, we were able to fit in a quick little trip to CSU East Bay to attend their Filipino Policy Symposium. We had a few of our high school students attend as well to help selling the gear for fundraising. And we also were able to learn more about the California Filipino American policies and participate in dialogues about the life issues that impact the Film communities in California. And then with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, our students were inspired to help by putting together a fundraiser, and we had a few of our proceeds, a portion of our proceeds donated to the Black Lives Matter organizations. In addition to that, our students took the time to learn about the history between Filipinos and African Americans, and they created graphics to inform and share on social media. And then earlier or last month, we collaborated with Club Kaibigan of Whitney High School in Cerritos. Our chapter president did a presentation about Filipino American history of the Manong generation and the anti-Filipino riots. It was a great opportunity for us to outreach and educate the youth in our community. About 40 students attended, and we are planning to collaborate with them more in the future just so that we can gain more student members and share funds with them as well. I'm going to pass it over to Jean now.
Okay. Hello, I am Jean Deshan. I'm just a student member of the FANHS LA chapter. So our chapter president came up with this idea of creating this small library in order to keep our members engaged with FANHS LA. Dr. B collected both money and book donations from places like Alaska, Seattle, New York, etc. For us to share and read with for us to read and share with one another during the quarantine. And then on July 27th, FANHS LA had the great opportunity of talking to educator Dr. Bernal of Cal State Long Beach and listen to her stories of growing up as a Filipino American in the United States today, as well as engage in a Q&A discussion with her. And now I will hand this back to Isabel, who will close this up. Thank you.
If you'd like to stay up to date on our events and fundraisers, you can follow us on our social media through Instagram and Facebook. We are also selling merchandise to fundraise for our chapter events and activities. I actually put the link down in the chat so you can click through there to see what we're selling. And just an update on our chapter membership, we currently have 17 paid student and family memberships with a total of 22 individuals in FANHS LA. So if you're interested in learning more about FANHS LA and attending some of our events, just follow us on social media, and we hope to see you at our next events. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Alex. Back to you.
All right, thanks, FANHS LA. That's really dope stuff, and I'm happy to be in the area and hopefully helping out more with the group. So the next one we have up, FANHS Central Valley. So we have Ate Luna is going to continue on with our presentations, and then I'll have your slide.
Okay, here I am. I'm ready. Are you ready? I just want to say good morning and good afternoon because we have people in the Philippines that are waking up, I don't know how early, to join us. So welcome everybody. I'm Luna Jamero and I'm representing the Central Valley chapter of FANHS today. And Bob Luna, who is our current president, asked me to speak on his behalf because he couldn't make it today. But just some background on who we are. Central Valley FANHS was organized in May of 1998. And one of the unique things about our chapter is that most of our members had moved away after high school and going on to college and then moving away to bigger cities to pursue their careers and also to raise their families. But as we got older and chose to retire, many of us returned to the farmland, which is where Central Valley, our chapter actually is located. If you think of the map of California, think about the very middle where there's a little crook in the map of California. We're right, you stick a pin there, we're right in the middle. That's Livingston. And then we have members that live in Merced, Modesto, Atwater, Manteca also. So we cover like about a 3-county area. And one of the first charter president, I was a charter president back in 1998, and Sam Gonzalez was my vice president, and Helen Villaruz was our secretary, and Desmond Navarez was the treasurer. The current officers, Bob Luna is our current president, Charlie Mariano is the vice president, and secretary is Art Villaruz, and the treasurer is Carol Labuga Holcomb. And as I said, you know, we shared a lot of the same growing up brown. Many of us did work in the fields because this is an agriculturally based economy. Some of us grew up, as I did, on a labor camp. My parents owned a labor camp. And so we were definitely living in 2 different kinds of cultures, because our labor camp was very much modeled after life in the Philippines. You know, I mean, there were things that, when I went back to the Philippines in 1971, it was kind of a revelation that I could figure out, oh, now I know why, you know, they swept the dirt and they watered the dirt and swept the dirt outside, because that's what they did in the Philippines all the time. So there was a lot of things that we shared in common. The members decided that when they moved back to the Central Valley that they needed to form a chapter. So in 1998, I was asked for a meeting. I had just moved back to the Valley myself, only a few months before this meeting. I lived in Stockton for about 30 years, so I have a lot of ties in Stockton. After I graduated from college, I moved to Stockton. So after 30 years, moving back to Livingston, and then getting involved with organizing the Central Valley chapter, which was a real beginning of, you know, all of us reaching out and reconnecting with the families that we pretty much grew up with. I was a little bit younger than some of the older members. And let me talk about one of the concerns we do have, because, you know, our chapter, when we started, many of us were still in our 60s and 70s. Now, the same members that had started the chapter back over 22 years ago now, we're now in our 70s, 80s, and pushing 90s. So, you know, the thing that we really are looking for and concerned about is recruiting younger folks, obviously. So I want to talk about, I mean, that's the unique thing about our chapter, is that we've had a lot of common interests. But let me talk about our highlights. I don't know how much time I have left, but because I'm not keeping track. So I want to just go into some of the things that we have done. The FANHS established an annual scholarship program under the name the Seferino Gamero Jr. Memorial Scholarship. And every year we award anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 to graduating seniors who are applying to pursue further education, whether it be in college or vocational. And we continue to do that every year. And we've done that ever since 2000, I believe it was 2003 that we started doing this. And we've also had a number of some publications that we published. One was the Filipino Flavors of Living Filipino American Kitchens. And this is a recipe book. Many of our, which we sold part of one of our fundraisers. And this one did very well. We're still into the 3rd printing. but this one was done in 2012. Talk Story is another journal that we did, which was done in 2008, and it pretty much covered what it really is. It's a collection of our stories, the stories of the Central Valley members who, you know, they were very intimidated about writing, but we got together and I said, just write from the heart. You know, we will edit it, we'll pretty it up, but it'll still make it sound like you. And that's what we did. And we went into, I think, a 4th printing, and hopefully we will have a sequel to Talk Story. And this is a publication that I was editor of, and one of the highlights of my membership with FANHS. I know I only have a minute left, but we have also done, we also have had a fundraising, we've gone on casino bus. So what Filipino does not go to the casino? But we have several Indian gaming casinos around us. So that's a part of the money that we make, which we raise for scholarships and other things that we can do. We've also been very supportive of the National Museum in Stockton. Some of our members have been docents. We've donated, several $1,000s to the National Museum, and we hope to continue to support them, as I hope other chapters do in the future. And just one last thing, as
What happened?
Luna, we lost you. No sound.
I think we lost connection. So I think she got logged off.
Hey, Luna, time's up.
Got cut off, man.
I thought you cut her off.
Wow, Alex, that's pretty mean.
I think she.
Wow, wow, what a tough moderator you have.
Oh.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
disappeared. I think something happened.
Wow, Alex cut you off.
Alex.
No, that's not what happened.
Anyway.
I tried to unmute her. I don't know what to do.
No, I thank you for the time, and hope you learned something, and
He's back.
we'll get back to you guys all later. Thank you.
Good job, Luna. Good job.
Thanks.
All right. So next up we have FANHS Pennsylvania. And then I think that would be Auntie Joni.
Oh, Alan always.
Ah.
We started.
Okay. So, am I unmuted? Okay. So, the FANHS Pennsylvania chapter might be characterized by its very collaborative spirit, and our leaders work collaboratively. We don't have a hierarchical structure in our organization, and we are known to collaborate with many other organizations, including, for example, Philippine Folk Art Society, the Filipino American Association of Philadelphia, and many others. So we were chartered in 2006 with Eliseo Arts Silva as the founding president. The current president is Kim Barroso. And some of you might remember him from FANHS Alaska, where there was a FANHS PA presentation, but Kim also did these impromptu piano little concerts. So that was Kim. So another leader, and he was at the FANHS leadership event on Zoom the other day, is Roman Ventura. And he's also on the Filipino Executive Council.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Rosen.
Cultural Society of Drexel U. Did you lose me?
Yeah, you gotta hustle up, man.
Oh, of Drexel U. Okay. So anyway, the the highlights of our years
we hosted the FANHS 2007 trustees meeting that included like a full weekend of events where the trustees could also meet the local community. Uncle Fred even did the homily at the St. Augustine Church in Philadelphia, which at first he thought was going to be impossible because he said he'll never get through the bureaucracy of the Catholic Church. I just did all these council meetings, but he did it. And there was an author's reception and other events, and it turned out that that was really significant because we lost Thelma and Sam Balukas a few months later. So that was their last major piece. Our signature event is the Filipino American History Month celebration that involves, and this is a kind of just gives you the spirit of it. It's a banquet and a dance and entertainment that's intergenerational. And we did this for about 8 years and lose money every single year because we subsidize students, entertainers, and elders, and that's practically everybody. And we've had some incredible guest speakers like and there are always student groups represented, and they're often performing. And it's worth it because it's the time when the community can learn about Filipino American history, unlike the where there's a lot of history being told. Every time we tell any little bit, when Drexel students petitioned to have a Filipino American Studies class, it was integrated history and literature. It was like the first ever in the region. And in here, it was the first time Philadelphia City Council had presented a resolution for Filipino American History Month. And when the councilman presented, he said he was learning a lot just from reading the resolution. And we also, in 2007, FANHS members who were not trained video people, it was the slide before, but they weren't trained video people, but we were behind the camera, we wrote the script, we edited, we interviewed, and produced with the Scribe Video Center the video short documentary, Filipino, St. Augustine Church, Philadelphia, Immigration and Filipino Transformation. The church was dying, and it was a church that had been burned down in the nativist movement, the anti-Catholic, anti-Irish movement, and it rose again kind of from the ashes, and it was dying again before gentrification, and Filipinos revived it. So we tell a little piece of that story, and that film has gone to film festivals and has been shown in national conferences like media conference, national media conferences, and most recently was part of the 2020 Filipino Finger Lakes Environmental Film Festival in upstate New York. And that was a virtual film festival, and it was an official selection. And we also worked with the Filipino American Association of Philadelphia that celebrated 100 years, and they had a whole year of activities and by Filipino American History Month, FANHS honored outstanding local Filipino Americans, and we drew 170 people to that banquet and dance. So since then, since we were losing so much money on that event, it has scaled back. So it's now Kamayan. It held in a church hall, but it still has the same spirit, a lot of entertainment and still promoting Filipino American history. And we're brainstorming now ways slides at the general meeting. FANHS PA will present again. So thank you. And thanks to all the speakers that have come out, like Juanita Tamayo-Lot and Jem Daus, and the late filmmaker Jerry Balasta, who just died of COVID. So thank you, everyone. our videos on YouTube too.
All right, thank you so much, Auntie Joni. All right, and last but not least, the last group to present will be FANHS-HR.
Okay. Am I on? Hello?
Yep.
Am I on?
Yep.
Okay. FANHS Hampton Roads, the Filipino American National Historical Society Hampton Roads chapter, is the oldest chapter on the East Coast and the fourth oldest of all 37 FANHS chapters. The year 2020 marks its 30th anniversary as it was chartered of June 3rd, 1990. Today's presenters, we're going to have Max Frias, who's our FANHS Vice President, former FANHS trustee, national trustee back in 1988. Raymond Obispo, FANHS President, our FANHS Hampton Roads President, former FANHS National Trustee from 2008 to 2018, and he's the founder of FACTS since 1994. Jeffrey Acosta is a former Secretary Treasurer of FANHS-HR. He's going to be an incoming FANHS National Trustee. Edwina Bergano, she's the Executive Director of FANHS-HR, former FANHS National Vice President, and a current FANHS National Trustee. And me, Alan Bergano, I'm a chapter member. So we'll start off by giving us, we're going to talk, if you want to know about our chapters, these are the accomplishments that we had in our past. So if you're interested, that's good reading, put you to sleep. But anyway, this is FANHS Now. And so with Max, we're going to start off and talk about his most favorite FANHS moment. Max Frias.
Good afternoon, everyone. A good day. For me, the most memorable event for FANHS occurred at the 2000 FANHS conference in Virginia Beach, Wesleyan College. I, along with Ron Ventura, Marla Villa, Sylvia Prim, were moderators of the topic, 3 U.S. Navy towns. The 4 of us showcased the histories of Filipino Americans stationed in the naval bases in San Diego, Vallejo, and Hampton Roads. My presentation of the history of Filipino Americans and their families in Hampton Roads was based on partly on research, oral histories, and personal family history. My father, Francisco Frias, was stationed in Norfolk from 1954 to 1975. To share his story, along with other Filipino Americans in front of family, friends, and conference attendees from all over the United States, is something I will remember for the rest of my life.
Thank you, Max. Raymond Obispo.
Hey guys. So when Alan asked me what to, he gave me a minute to talk about my fondest memories of FANHS Hampton Roads. And one of the things that I'm probably there's so many, but one of the things that I'm most proud of really is this community book that we did. Is called In Our Auntie's Words. And Joan May has been very instrumental in this. And Dan Fontemayor, I know he's out there somewhere too. And there's a lot of folks. And what we did is that we had a team of youth and also young professionals interview the uncles and aunties in the Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area. And one of the most, I guess, it was an oral history book. And not only was it an oral history book, it provided scripts for my high school students to actually dramatize these words to the aunties who we interviewed. So I believe the year was 2004, in which my high school students actually acted out their words at our Philippine Cultural Center here in Virginia Beach. And it was such a moving, kind of passionate and necessary and unique way to present oral history. Not only did it validate and make the uncles and aunties happy, it really engaged my students in learning and also getting the high school kids understanding that their own personal histories are important too. And with that being said, another proud moment that I have is right here, right now, in which Alex Senna, who was a former student of mine. He graduated, I think, in 2002 or 2001. So I think it's an honor for me to be sitting here and seeing Alex Senna almost 20 years after he was my student at Salem High School, actually running a national show. To me, this is one of the, I guess, one of the proudest moments. So shout out to you, Alex. Shout out to all my students. And we couldn't have not done that. My high school students in FACS could not have done that without the support of FANHS. So Alex, this is for you, buddy. Thanks a lot.
You're here, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Acosta.
32 years, one's not enough. I got 5. Meeting Fred Cordova, his passion. I married into this community, and Fred always treated me as if I was Filipino, even with my blue eyes. To talk Philippine history and learn sitting at the table with Fred Cordova was unforgettable. And then there's Dorothy. To sit with Dorothy in Washington, D.C. and Pulitzer Prize-winning author Stanley Karnow talk about the role of Filipinos, Philippine Americans in Asian American history, the history of the United States was unforgettable. 1994, when we honored at the MacArthur Memorial the 50th anniversary of the landings at Leyte, where the guest of honor was Francisco Salvaro, the last survivor of the famous photograph of MacArthur wading ashore. But to sit there with Alex Fabros and listen to him talk about the 1st and 2nd Philippine Infantry, and Peter Bacho talk about the Hakbalahap, and Luis Taruk and the anti-Japanese resistance movement was just frickin' unbelievable. Attending 4 conferences and meeting all of you and listening to your stories, where can you go wrong? It was just amazing. And finally, something I miss locally was going to bars like the Landing Zone with Alan, Edwina, Max, all of our FANHS members, Auntie Joni, and the late Joe Montano, and just having a good time talking Philippine history, politics. It was fantastic. So to me, that's what this all means. And I hope to pass that on to my sons and my grandsons. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, Edwina.
Okay, there's, like what Ray said, there's so many memories, but it makes me really, when we would be involved with the high school students, we always tell ourselves that a lot of our colleagues are doing other things, but when I see Alex Senna, become involved, it really makes me feel that we've made a big difference. But that's one memory. But FANHS-HR is a work in progress. But the best memories is one of the best memories is coordinating the national conference at Virginia Wesleyan College in the year 2000. Because our conference consisted of primarily high school and college students who did everything from registration to performing for our guests, where they had to stop registration because they had to prep to perform that night. And at the same time, it was the first conference that we tested out on having a conference on a college campus, because the complaint at that time was that the hotels were too expensive. And that was a really great conference because it was the first time that we had a tour. We started the local tour. We also started having people arrive on Wednesdays. So it was a really great change in the usual way we do things. Secondly, was doing the 2 oral history projects, which involved an intergenerational approach from the seniors to the young professionals to the high school students, and also to the children of the aunties and uncles, because they had to help us translate. This project was completed in 4 years, 2 books in 4 years. In our auntie's words and in our uncle's words, was really a project of love. I even think Alex was involved in that project as well. But we were able to complete that project. It was a coordination of 100 volunteers. We even had coverage from the local press. PBS followed us, the local PBS, which is why a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon because they were on TV all of a sudden. And even until now, we're still, using the proceeds from those 2 book projects, which in our uncle's words were sold out immediately. It was hard copy, and they were so proud that theirs was hard copy, but the uncle's words was not hard copy, was softback. But anyway, though that project, I think we're still recovering from that project about over 10 years now, but that was really something. And another best memory is Fonz Now. It gives, it's just like we're just going to the next level. We're part of making our Hampton Roads chapter is committed to bringing funds of our contribution to bring everyone to the next level because we care, we love the mission, and we want our organization to continue on a local level and a national level. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwina. For me, yes, 30 years. And for you that are just starting, has it been worth it? Absolutely, because it's all about relationships. Because if it wasn't for these relationships, we would not be here. But my favorite Fonz memory, moments, is just plentiful, but I'll just stick to one. And it comprises of 1 hour, 2 days a week, 6 weeks. You get Fonz Now. That's how fast we put this together. And why Fonz Now? Well, if we're not here now, where are we? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doc, and Fonz Hampton Roads. So I want to thank everybody for being a part of the presentation series. It's really inspiring to hear everybody's work in the community. I hope this is inspiring for each and every one of you. I hope that there's things that other chapters and communities that are doing that you hope you can connect with and hopefully collaborate. This is a great opportunity for us to build stronger networks amongst each other. Since we can use the digital platform to connect more readily. And it seems like a platform that we're going to be using more often now, during this pandemic and these challenging and crazy times. I wanted to give an opportunity, though. I know we have some time, people might have some questions or conversations, but I also do want to close out really quickly. So just in case for people who have time constraints that, and thanking everybody for taking their time and energy to be here. So if you do have to transition out of the meeting, please feel free. Thank you for spending your time. For those that want to stick around for a little bit or have the space or the time to do so, feel free to stick around and maybe we can just community chat, ask questions. And then just a reminder for tomorrow's presentation.
Can I talk about tomorrow?
Talk about tomorrow real quick?
Yes, real quick. Tomorrow it will be our last day, our third day. And if you notice, on these 3 days, the first day was basically our past as far as Fonz is concerned. Today was like basically today, the present, and tomorrow is the future. What are we going to do in Fonz Now in the future? And it's one of the things that I stress to make a point is that we need to start giving honor to those that are still with us today. On the good, positive things they have been doing. And we started off the whole week by giving Patricia Brown a day in Fonz Legacy Month. And tomorrow, we're going to unveil our new award. It's called the MVP. And you guys that'll be our closing award. And again, it's all about giving props to those that are still with us. So tomorrow, we'll also hear from the Fonz Museum with Emil Guillermo. Luna's going to talk about TGIF. And then I'll also mention numerous topics and programs that we do have planned in the future. And I'm just so happy to see you guys here. We're just starting. Okay, this is a new realm that we're starting, and we're all going to do this together. We're going to learn together. We're going to get tight together. We're going to have fun. Okay, let's keep this light. And if you're ever here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, give Ray Obispo a holler. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you, everybody. And then
Great job, everyone.
Okay, I'm stopped recording now.
Yeah.
Are you going to hear the questions? Are there any questions?
Yeah. Anybody that has any questions can feel free to stick around. They can share.